I think we're all doing that. So many of the people around us are looking for truth, wondering if there is such a thing anymore. How often do we hear the phrase fake news? Probably every day. Somebody's claiming that, no, that's fake. So you got one side saying that this one's lying, this one's saying that one's lying, and we're left kind of in the middle going, who do I trust? Back when I was a kid, and even as a young adult, I remember Walter Cronkite. Anybody remember that guy? Did it ever enter your mind that he would lie? That he would shade the news a little bit, that he would try to, have an agenda or something? He was Cronkite, man. He's going to tell the truth. Now, again, I don't know. All right, maybe I was naive as a kid, and maybe we're seeing things for what they are now, but I don't know. It just seems like it's just fake. And if you go online, it's no better, is it? You have this thing called clickbait. Everyone loves that, don't they? And a lot of folks, I have found and I have seen people who will actually base what they think about an issue or about something that happened based on the clickbait. And I'm like, man, because when you read the article, you realize that sensationalistic headline was just to get you to click on the link, to go to the blog post or whatever it is. And I found almost always, it has nothing to do, the article has nothing to do with what that clickbait was saying. But again, you have people who are going, man, did you hear what happened? Did you read that? And I'm like, yeah, I read the clickbait was saying that, but when you actually read the article, it was saying something almost the opposite. And so it's no wonder that people are just kind of losing hope and saying, there's no foundation, there's nothing I can just sort of take to the bank and know that what was said was true. And that's why what we're talking about in this Peace of Mind series is so incredibly important. Because Jesus is not just an example of what truth looks like. He is truth. He said, right? He said in John, he said, I am the way, I am the truth, and the life. He was saying, I'm not one of many truths, right, that you can pick. I'm not the best one. He goes, I am the truth. But how do you know? I think over the last couple of years, our experience can help us in this. Because quite often, someone that's lying or at least shading the truth a little bit, there's always an agenda, isn't there? And it's a self-serving agenda. And it's also not just a self-serving agenda, but it's an agenda that seeks to destroy someone else. But Jesus is one who never lies, who never can lie. Our adversary, the devil, we learn in Scripture, is the opposite. He can't help but lie because he's the father of lies. That's what he does. That is his wheelhouse, is deception and trying to get us away from God and to not believe. But to believe his lies, to believe his lies about ourselves, his lies about other people. But you ever notice that the truth will often cost you? And I can tell when somebody is telling me the truth because it's usually something that could, again, come at great cost to them as they share the truth about me, maybe. And so they might be like, Fred, we got to talk. And maybe it's something that as they tell me the truth, it's something I need to hear, but I may not be happy that it came from them. So there's a risk. See, but if we're about the truth, we don't matter. It doesn't matter about those things. We're not saying that's the most important thing. We're just saying your well-being and what you need, and if we even ratchet it up a little bit, your eternal value and your eternal life is at stake here. So I want you to know the truth, because Jesus said, when you know the truth, when you know Him, you will be set free. See, that's what's at stake, our freedom. And is it any wonder that anxiety's through the ceiling, depression's through the ceiling, and each and every one of those things, they are not freeing things, are they? Peace means freedom. See, God's version of peace, as we talked about last week, and we've been talking about during this series, is this sense that, and this truth that I am going to be okay. Not because everything around me stopped raging, But through it all, through the midst of the worst that life can throw at me, Jesus still has me. God still loves me. He's not going anywhere, and I'm there. And that's what peace is. Peace picks up the billion pieces of your broken heart and puts them back together. It's all you need, and it's what God gives to us. It's kind of the goal of what we're talking about. This whole series is based on a passage from Romans 4. I talked a little bit about it last week. If you missed it, you can go on our YouTube page or our website and check it out. But he's saying, look, I want you to have peace. I want you to be able to rejoice all the time. I don't want you to be anxious about anything. So he says, what I want you to do is trust God. I want you to bring everything to him. Everything. Let what is going on in your heart, let it be known to God. And what's going to happen? The peace of God that passes all understanding, it's going to be like a sentinel for your heart and your mind in Christ. So anything that goes into your head or into your heart has to pass through the truth that Jesus loves you, that you are forgiven, that you are saved. And there is nothing that you can do that will change how he sees you and how he feels about you. You have his truth. So, but Paul knows that there's one thing that each and every one of us, regardless of who we are, that we do all day, and that is think. We have thousands of thoughts every day. Most of we don't even realize, we don't even acknowledge. But thinking is something that we do. So he says, okay, so finally, brothers, whatever is true and whatever is honorable, and he has a whole list, because I want you to think about those things. And we're going to take these in pairs, week after week. Because I believe, like, if you know what's true, you're going to live a life that's honorable. And so we're going to see these flowing out of each other and really working together as well. And God wants us to think about them. And not just to sort of, keep them in your mind and, have a positive thought about it. He's saying think in terms of dwelling on it. And I would even go a step further. Think about it the way that you think about something that someone asks you to do. Like, what if I was to say, okay, all right, I go to Kyle and I say, Kyle, man, we're going to put together another band and we're going to go on tour and we're going to do all these other things. We want to bring the message of Jesus to the world, and I think you're a great keyboard player, man. I want you in. And he might say to me, I'm going to think about it. And what that means is he's going to consider what we talked about. He's going to weigh the pros and cons, and he might say, yeah, let's do this. Or he might say, no, I don't think so. But there's going to be an action. Do you see what I'm saying? At the end of that deliberation and concern and thought and prayer. And that's what he's saying. He's saying, okay, look at the truth, look at what's honorable, and see how it has to be included in your life. See, is it something that would characterize you? That people would say about you? Oh, man, he's a man of honor. She's a woman of honor. He's a person who's after the truth, or she's really into God's truth. And again, in the world today, it's sad, because if I were to ask you right now, like out in society, like on the news and all that, what are some great examples of people of honor and people of truth? I'd be willing to bet that if you were to throw a name out, there'd be somebody else to go, they're a liar and they dishonor this or dishonor that. It's weird, like how can one person be a person of dishonor but also a person of honor at the same time? But that's what we're in. In fact, it's probably much quicker for you to come up with somebody who is a person who lies and cheats and kind of dishonors things than it is for you to find somebody, a famous celebrity, who is all about truth and honor. It'd be much harder, wouldn't it, for me to come up with a name or like 3 names? That would be like really hard. We'd be here for a while. See, but in the church, I think what's cool is that, and this is the strength of God's people, that if I were to ask a question about church folks, you would probably have a nice list of people who were about truth and about honor. And not just biblical people, but you would find people that you know, maybe in your own family, your grandmother, your dad, your mom, right? You'd be like, man, they're a person of honor. Man, that person's about the truth. And so one of the things I want us to do is to be a people to be the kind of people where that's true. That we're about truth and that we are about being people of honor. So, again, Jesus is that ultimate source. He's the ultimate. He is truth. And what he says is true. We can they're the words of eternal life, right? So we can always trust him and go to that. But what I think happens is if we know the truth, right? The truth about me, that even though I sin, even though I fall short of the glory of God, even though right now I'm not perfect, I know that he died for me. I know that he rose for me. And so I really think that the Spirit working, the Word working, results in all of us saying, okay, because all that's true, I want to live a life of honor. Wouldn't it be weird for you to know all of that about God? He's given you eternity, he's defeated death, and he's defeated the devil, and he's done all of that. But you know what? I don't really care about being honorable. I don't care about honoring you or honoring my parents or honoring anything. Just makes no sense. But when you just take in the truth that God gives and that he is, I think a life of honor is the result. And one of my favorite examples of honor in the Bible, it sprung right to mind, is Joseph from back in the Old Testament. Now, Joseph is one of those guys where he's such a good example because his circumstances were so difficult. You know what I mean? Like he had every reason to say, you know what, I don't care. I'm going to write God off. I'm going to write all of you off. Because you tried, right? His brothers tried to kill him first. Let's not forget that was their initial plan, right? We'll bring his bloodied, garment, that coat of many colors. Yeah, we'll show him. We'll say that he got, some wild animals just tore him apart. We're sad, boo-hoo, right? But one of the brothers is like, let's just sell him into slavery. That's probably a little extreme. And so that's what happens. He gets, and as you pick it up in Genesis 39, Joseph had been brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, who was an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, he was an Egyptian, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him down there. So he's a slave now. Sold, right? And bought and sold by people around him. Now, I don't know about you, but that might tend to get a little chip on your shoulder, a little anger, maybe, at your brothers, about maybe, right? I mean, and other people go, yeah, you're right. Look at what they did to you. See, but Joseph never goes there, does he? At least not in Scripture. Doesn't record him like acting on any of that. In fact, he does the opposite. And here's one of these key phrases in verse 2. He says that the Lord was with Joseph. And so he became a successful man, and he was in the house of his master, of his Egyptian master. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord caused all that he did to succeed in his hands. And so Joseph found favor in his sight and attended him, and he made him overseer of his house and put him in charge of all that he had. And so from that time, he had made him overseer in his house, and over all he had, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. The blessing of the Lord was on all that he had in the house and in the field. And so he left all that he had in Joseph's charge, and because of him, he had no concern about anything but the food he ate. Now, one thing I want us to see, just kind of as a kind of a caution, maybe, it would be easy to say, trust in God, you're going to get everything you'd always want. So this is sort of God as Santa, maybe, right? If you're good, it's going to be perfect. It's not what this says at all. This is all having to do with the larger mission, the larger purpose. Because as you see, things don't always go well for Joseph. So don't interpret everything he did was awesome, because there were some difficult things. For us, there will be some difficult things. But here's the important thing to see through all of it, is that the Lord was with him, and the Lord is with us. That's the truth that we hang our hat on, man. That's the truth that we put right there in front of us every day. But think of it like I wish we could see everything just through that truth, that he's never going to leave me, never going to forsake me. Jesus actually said that to us. Right? He loves us. And so, Joseph is a man of honor, despite all the things that had happened. I mean, up to this point, I'm thinking like he's no longer with his people. He's with the Egyptians. So he's kind of in a foreign place. Had to be scary, but what he does is he doesn't say, oh, woe is me, and this is what happened. He does what's right. He trusts in God, and what happens is he has all of this happen. In fact, the Egyptians wind up being blessed because of him. But now the plot's about to change, right? We know the story. Joseph is handsome in form and appearance. I mean, this guy could be on The Bachelor. He's one of those kind of level, and the wife of of Potiphar sees him, notices him, and says, oh, this guy's pretty good looking. And she says, lie with me. But what does he do? He refuses. Think about how different that is than what we see time after time in the world around us, right? Guys with his buddies, it's a woman got her eye on him, right? They're just out having a few beers after work, and right, the girl, a couple, across the bar is like, hey man, she's looking at you. And if you got the wrong set of guys around you, they might encourage you to go home with her. Even though you're married, they might say, just cover your ring or take it off. I mean, how often is that in movies, in a lot of what we allow to fill ourselves? Like, that's okay. Especially if it's a loveless marriage, right? That's the plot, isn't it? Just about every one of them. Oh man, she's terrible to you, or he's terrible, and so it's almost okay. And in a lot of them, it's like, wow, that's awesome, because, well, he's not good for you, and she's not good for you, and so you find somebody else, and it's just a train wreck. Again, a lot of people would say, yeah, Joseph, go for it. You've earned it. You've arrived. You have that kind of power, that kind of position. And for Joseph, it's got to be difficult because she is, right, along with everything else that's happening to him, like she's giving him some good attention, making him feel good about himself. But it all boils down to this. He refused. But he refused. And what's key is why. Because he looks right at her and he says, look, behold, here's the deal. Because of me, my master has no concern about anything in this house. In fact, he has put everything that he has in my charge. So in other words, Potiphar sleeps really well at night because he knows that I can be trusted and that I am going to do the right thing, that the Lord is with me, right? You can't just forget about all that stuff. He says, no, I'm very mindful of it, of where it's come from and what it means. And he actually says in verse 9, he goes, Potiphar, he is not greater in this house than I am. Which kind of shows you what level Joseph's at. Nor has he kept back anything from me. So any food that's there, Joseph can have at it, right? Anything he has available to him. Except for one thing. What is that? Except you. Because you are his wife. See, Joseph notices like what God has done. He notices where God has brought him from. And instead of, again, saying, woe is me, getting anger, getting bitter, getting back at somebody, he's like, I'm going to do what's right. And when it's difficult here, because it's about to get really difficult, but he utters these words. And I wonder, whenever you're hitting temptation to cheat in any way, I'm talking financially, I'm talking business, I'm talking in your relationships with people, and any of those things, what if we said, how then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? See, because for him, it's not just about his position. He's not going, man, I'll lose my job. He's not going there. I mean, he acknowledges that could happen, but for him, it's all about this integrity thing. Look at how this guy trusts me. Look at how God entrusted this all to me. Look at how what's happening. Look at where I came from. Look at all these things. Look at how God has saved me and brought me to this place and all of this. And now, you know, you're his wife. And like, how could I possibly do this? Do something so wicked and sin against God? See, he strikes right at the heart of it. That's where honor lies. We honor him above all things. Above all things. And when we do that, guess what happens? He honors Potiphar's wife and Potiphar and everybody else in Egypt and perhaps just anybody that you could find. Because he's honoring God above all things. He's saying, look, I couldn't possibly do that. And she doesn't stop either. Verse 10, and as she spoke to Joseph, day after day. Can you imagine that? He's just trying to do his thing, man. And this woman is like batting eyelash. Hey, Joe, how are you? And you know, as he comes around the corner, he's like, oh, could you imagine? Like Joseph was probably like, oh man, here we go. And she's right in his face, trying to get him to sleep with her. What did he do? He would not listen to her. He would not listen to her to lie beside her or to be with her. But then it happened one day. He went into the house to do his work, and none of the men in the house were there. All alone. Nobody's going to catch them. It's going to be between them. She catches him by his garment. Come on, lie with me. But he left his garment in her hand, and he fled and got out of the house. And as soon as she saw it, she'd been rejected, so she's, hey, look at what he did. Goes to her husband, look, he brought that guy in here. Look at what he did. Look at how he dishonored me. See, that's what happens sometimes when we try to be honorable, is that the world spins it. Somebody who wants to take advantage of us or of a situation will say, no, that was something. You dishonored me. When the opposite is what is true. See, Joseph, at the end of all of this, even though he gets thrown into prison, at the end of the day, he can say, I did what was right. I honored God. I honored everyone. It's always the right way to go. And it was a simple strategy. He stopped listening and he ran. He fled. He got out of there. Anybody familiar with Dave Ramsey? Financial guy, does a lot of like debt, get out of debt things. What does he say to do when you want to get out of debt? He calls it gazelle intensity. So, in other words, you should run away from debt or whatever's causing you to be in debt the way a gazelle runs away from a cheetah. You should run that fast. And that's what he's like telling us. Like, when you honor someone, sometimes you just have to get out of there and take it seriously and know what it's going to do to you. And that's what he does, showing us what this honor looks like. See, that's what brings us peace. Knowing that we're honoring him. He's first. He's our King. He's our Lord. He's our Savior who loves us. We're not going to find peace in doing all these other things. In fact, it's going to be the opposite. It's going to undo us. As Deb said in the kids' message, it's going to literally, those things will turn our life around, upside down and empty of us, of the things that we need. But Jesus is there to hold it all together, to bring us peace, to bring us his hope and his love. And so let's think on these things. Let's be the kind of people that are saying, you know what? No. I'm going to say no to those things that rob me of peace, no to those things that dishonor God and dishonor the people in my life. I'm going to honor all of them, and I'm going to be on the lookout for ways that I can do that. See, each and every week I want you to think, when you hear whatever is true, whatever is honorable, I'm going to ask you, like, what do you think about that? Like, for you, like, what do you think about that? Because to me, it boils down to us entering in to these things we read in the Bible. See, Joseph's story could seem like some far-fetched thing from so long ago, but the truth is the same, that God is with him, and he's still with us, isn't he? Has he gone anywhere? He hasn't up and left. He's with us. It's difficult, and there's some tough things. But through our anxiety, through our depression, through our anger, through all the things that we're dealing with, we can bring those things to him, and that peace of God just washes over us. It fills us. And so let us see how we can respond by, again, being filled more with his truth. The truth of his forgiveness, the truth of his love, the truth of his grace and mercy for us each and every day, and the fact that he is going to be with us just like he was with Joseph. He will be with us each and every day.